we spoke yesterday how you're not allowed to swear in God's name in vain. Today the Rambam focuses the opposite way. The Rambam says, just like it's a mitzvah not to swear in vain, so is it a mitzvah to swear when you need to. For example, he gives an example. If someone swears, I'm going to put on tefillin every day. Now, if he swears on that, he has to put on tefillin anyway. Because when you came to Mount Sinai, God made you make an oath that you're going to keep the entire 613 mitzvahs. So really, without the swearing, you still have to do the tefillin anyway. Because you already accepted the oath on Mount Sinai. Because you were there. But still, if you say that I take upon myself with swearing that I'm going to put on tefillin every day, that you're permitted. Why? Because in Tehillim, in chapter 119, Pasuk 106, it says, Nishbaiti v'akayema lishmar mishvei tzikecha. I have sworn, and I will fulfill to keep your righteous judgment. So you could swear to encourage yourself to keep what God wants you to keep. So it's almost like an incentive. So it's not in vain. And the same thing, if someone swears to do any positive mitzvah, I swear I'm going to come to shul every day. Why is he swearing? Because he wants to commit himself to do something positive. So that's not in vain. That's a positive. The only thing is you have to keep it. Once you swear, you can't. Now, one more thing the Rambam says about little children. If a child that's, let's say, 10 years old says, I swear I'm going to, swear in God's name that I'm going to do this and this, does he have to, is he obliged to follow his vows? According to Jewish law, if you're a minor, under 10 years old, you're not obliged. However, the Rambam says you need to act with this child and make him feel as if he is obliged. And say, no, you swore, you better keep it. And you have to give him this hard time, even though halachically it's not valid because what he says doesn't have any power because he's under the age of the power of speech. But still, you want to train them not to be like the Gentiles, he says, on the street that swear every day 150 times a second, and then they don't keep anything. No, you have to make him feel that this is a serious thing. And then he ends off, he says, you have to understand that a lot of people make these swearing, and they swear in God's name, they swear in all kinds of things. It's a very harsh sin, he says. Anyone that swears and doesn't keep his even though there's no death penalty and there's no chorus, it's one of the worst sins. And as the Torah says that when a person swears, he has to realize, even when he says God's name in vain, for example, he makes a bracha. Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam shehakol niyeh b'dvarei. For why are you saying the bracha? You're not eating anything, you're not drinking anything, you just made a bracha. That's also considered saying God's name in vain, and you have to excommunicate him. If you hear someone make a bracha for no purpose, you have to say you're a cherem, you excommunicate. If you don't, then the person that hears the bracha becomes excommunicated because he heard God's name mentioned for no reason and he didn't protest. God's name is not a toy. God's name is holy. God's name is elevated. So even if you say a blessing for no purpose, just because saying shaka shaka nevar shadya, that's also a problem. So you have to be very, very careful in what you say and how you say it. And the best thing is always to say these two words. Train yourself to say beli neder without any vow and finish. Just never, every time you say something, even before you start speaking, say beli neder 100 times. So whatever you say, you won't have a problem with, God forbid. And never mention God's name in your vocabulary. Don't use it. Use it till you make a bracha. But what do you have to use God's name for? Oh, I swear in God's name in my father's grave, whatever. Don't say those things. It's not Jewish talk.
It degrades Hashem.
No, people always make these swearing in this. I swear by him. I swear by his name. Don't. That's not the Jewish way. Don't swear. Don't use God's name unless you're trying to encourage yourself to do something positive, putting on tefillin every day or learning, coming coming to shul is something positive. Rabbi Hanan